Good day everyone, I am JD Marie C. Tundag, and in behalf of my group mates, I will be discussing about the recognition of verb. So before we proceed to the deeper discussion, let us first define on what is verb. So as we all know, verbs are words that shows an action, occurrence, or state of being. So verbs are an important part of the English language. So without them, or without a verb, sentences wouldn't have any action. So in simple words, verbs are the busy bodies of sentences that serve to bring the entire thought to completion. So I have here 6 guidelines or 6 checklists to help you determine if a word or group of words is a verb. So the first one here is a complete verb tells by changing form. So this is the number one function of a verb, to tell us when the action or state of being took, takes, or will take place. So I have here 3 different sentences. So the first example is, I ate spaghetti for lunch. So it means the action is already done. And the second example is, I eat spaghetti for lunch. So it means you are doing something at the moment, or you are eating the spaghetti at the moment. And the third example is, I will eat spaghetti for lunch. It means the action is not yet done. So the second one here is, a verb can be more than one word. So just like the example sentence here, we have, I should have been eating spaghetti for lunch. So the verb here consists of 4 words, which is should have been eating. The third one here is, a verb either shows action or state of being. So in this case, a helping verb may be separated from the main verb, and a verb phrase consists of one main verb and one or more helping verbs. So just like the example sentence, I ate spaghetti for lunch. So the verb here is the word ate. And the fourth one here is, a verb that shows state of being is called a linking verb, because it always links the subject to another word. So what is a linking verb? So it is a verb that describes the subject by connecting it to a predicate adjective or predicate noun. So just like the example sentence here, the first example here is, the spaghetti is hot. Second one is, the spaghetti is Italian. And the third one is, the spaghetti was mine. So examples of linking verbs that show state of being and which link the subject to another word. The fifth guideline here is, a verb never ever comes after the word to. So the example sentence here is, I like to eat spaghetti. So this sentence is wrong because it is not a verb in this sentence, because it cannot change form to tell time, nor can you add a helping verb to tell time for it. So the correct construction of sentence here is, I like eating spaghetti. So the last guideline here is, an ing word can never be a verb by itself. So it must have a helping verb in front of it to tell time. So we have here different example sentences, which are the wrong one and the correct one. So the first example here is, I swimming in the lake. So this sentence doesn't have a complete verb because it has no way of knowing when the action took, takes, or will take place. So we will correct this sentence. So the correct sentence is, I am swimming in the lake. So it is already correct because it has a helping verb, which is the am. And the second sentence here is, I was swimming in the lake. And the last example is, I will be swimming in the lake. So I will discuss deeper about the helping verbs. So what are helping verbs, or what is helping verbs? So helping verbs are verbs that are used in a verb phrase, meaning it is used with the second verb to show tense or form a question or a negative. So helping verbs are used to show the perfect verb tenses, continuous or progressive verb tenses, and passive voice. So helping verbs are always followed by a second verb. So what are the example of helping verbs? So we have here examples of helping verbs. So can, will, shall, may, must, might, could, would, and lastly should. State of being or linking verbs. So again, what are linking verbs? So linking verbs are verbs that connects the subject of a sentence to an adjective, noun, or pronoun that completes the meaning of the verb. So common linking verbs are the forms of the verb to be, or verbs relating to the 5 senses, and the verbs become, appear, and seem. So why do we use linking verbs? So we use linking verbs to connect a subject to the words that describe what the subject is. So linking words or linking verbs, unlike action verbs, do not describe actions. Instead, a linking verb definition describes a state of being, and it is very useful to connect the subject of a sentence to an adjective, noun, or pronoun that completes the meaning of the verb. Think about this. So you are a human being as well as a human doing. Furthermore, your being happens in time. Yesterday, you may have been something that you are not being today. For example, yesterday I was nervous about starting college, but today I am more confident. So in the previous sentence, no action was being performed, but a state of being needed to be shown. Because of this reality, our language has the ability to express states of being in time as well as actions in time. So this is why we call verbs that express this reality state of being verbs. Also, we call them linking verbs because these verbs always link the subject of the verb to another word or phrase. Sometimes that word is an adjective, sometimes it is a noun, and sometimes it is a pronoun. Verb also have tenses. So what are verb tenses? It is a set of verb forms that are used to convey the time at which an action occurs. Also, verbs tell time by changing their form. Why is tenses important? So tenses are important because it is the form, the backbone of the English language, and correct use of tenses will imply the use of correct form of verb with proper auxiliary. I have here 12 different verb tenses. So the first tenses here is simple tenses. So what is simple tenses? The simple tenses describe an action or state of being that takes place in the past, present, or future. So under the simple tenses, we have simple present. So what is simple present? It is a verb tense with two main uses. We use the simple present tense when an action is happening right now or when it happens regularly. Simple sentences of simple presents are: I am a teacher. You are my friend. She is nice. The dog eats. We smile. They cry. And so on and so forth. Next one is the simple past tense. So it is used to talk about a completed action in a time before now. So the simple past is the basic form of past tense in English. The time of the action can be in the recent past or the distant past, and action duration is not important. So the example sentences are: I was a teacher. You were a student. She was sick. The dog ate. We smiled. They cried. We took turns. We run. I walked. The last one is the simple future. So it refers to a time later than now and expresses facts or certainty. In this case, there is no attitude or the simple future is used to predict a future event. Just like the example sentence here, we have I will be a teacher. The dog will eat. We will smile. They will cry. We will take turns. We will run. And lastly, I will walk. Next one is the perfect complete tenses. So what is perfect complete tenses? It is used to show an action that is complete and finished or perfected. So in this tense, it is expressed by adding one of the auxiliary verbs, which is the have, has, or had, to the past participle form of the main verb. Under the perfect complete tenses is the present perfect. So what is present perfect? It is a grammatical combination of the present tense and perfect aspect that is used to express a past event that has present consequences. So, example sentence here is, I have been a good student. So, it began in the past and carries forward to the present moment. You have been nice. She has been mean. The dog has eaten. We have smiled. They have cried. We have taken turns. We have run. And lastly, I have walked. Next one is the past perfect tense, or also called as the pluperfect. It is a verb that used to talk about actions that were completed before some point in the past. Like for example, I had been a teacher for 5 years when the school burned down. Began in the past and was completed in the past. And the next example is, if you had been nicer, I would still be your friend. And the dog had eaten half the bag of food before we heard the recall. Notice how in each of these sentences, a second clause explains why sense of completeness caused by the past perfect tense is necessary. So the last one under the perfect complete tenses is the future perfect. So it is a verb form or construction used to describe an event that is expected or planned to happen before a time of reference in the future. So example sentences here is, I will have been teaching for 5 years at the end of semester. It began in the past and will be completed in the future. And the next example is, the dog will have eaten. So notice the sentences. It began in the past and will be completed in the future. Next tenses is the progressive verb tense, or also called the continuous tense. It is an English verb tense used to describe continuing actions or actions that are in progress and ongoing. It can be conjugated to be used in the past, present, or future. So under the progressive continuous tense is the present progressive. So it is a verb form used in modern English that combines the present tense with the continuous aspect. So basically, it is formed by the present tense, form of be, and the present participle of a verb. So example sentence here is, I am being honest. Next one is the past continuous tense, or also known as the past progressive tense. So it refers to a continuing action or state that was happening at some point in the past. So example sentence here is, I was being
What
good.
number are you now?
So the last tense under the progressive continuous tenses is the future progressive. So It is a verb tense that indicates that something will occur in the future and continue for an expected length of time. So it is formed using the construction will plus be plus the present participle or the root verb plus ing. So example sentence here is I will be leaving, you will be coming, she will be singing, the dog will be eating, and so on and so forth. Past tenses is the complete progressive tenses. So it is a verb tense that is used to refer to an action or a state that is continuing to happen. So in English, it is a verb form in the progressive tense consists of a form of the verb be followed by the main verb's present participle. So the first one here we have present perfect progressive. So a present perfect continuous tense is something that shows started in the past and is continuing at the present time. So the present perfect continuous is formed using the construction has or have been plus the present participle root plus ing. So the example sentence here is I have been trying to reach you. You have been being difficult. She has been seeing a counselor. And so on and so forth. The next one is the past perfect progressive tense. So it is an action that started in the past, continued up until the other time in the past. So basically, the past perfect continuous tense is constructed using had been plus the verb's present participle.
10 minutes more.
So the example sentence here is I had been crying an hour when he finally called. Just like the past perfect, this tense is not used very often and always includes a second clause that explains why or how the action in the past perfect progressive tense was completed. Last one here is the future perfect progressive tense. So it is a verb tense that describes actions that will continue up until a point in the future. So the future perfect continuous consists of will plus have plus been. So the verb's present participle is the verb root plus the ing.
Okay, can you
Example sentence is I will have been being, you will have been being, she will have been being, and so on and so forth. Note, when a verb becomes more than a word, it has a main verb which is the action or the state of being, and the rest of the words that make up the complete verb are the helping verbs, and they are the part of the complete verb that will change form to tell time. And also, some words that are always helping verbs move the action or state of being into the land of possible time. So this land of possible time includes the future tense, which uses the word will as a helping verb. And on the other hand, helping verbs in this category include could, would, should, can, and etc.
and
Lastly, when these helping verbs are used, the main verb is always the simple present form.
Molina?
Lastly, I will be discussing about the regular and irregular verb. So what is a regular verb? So a regular verb is any verb whose conjugation follows the typical pattern or one of the typical patterns of the language to which it belongs. So all verbs change their forms to create tenses. Likewise, all verbs have four forms that are used to create the various tenses. So these forms follows the simple present, present participle, simple past, and lastly the past participle. However, the verb changes depends upon whether the verb is a regular verb or an irregular verb. So the example here is the simple present is walk. The present participle of the word walk is walking, and the simple past is walked, and the past participle is walk. So in regular verbs, it always follow the following formula, creating the past and the past participle by adding d or ed to the simple present tense. On the other hand, irregular verb are verb whose conjugation follows a different pattern. So, irregular verbs do not follow a specific formula. Some remain exactly the same for a present, simple present rather, past and past participle, or some have the past participle form reverting to the present tense, and some past participle forms are a third word altogether. So following are some examples. So in simple present we have bet, and in the present participle beating. In the simple past is bet, and the past participle bet. So as you notice, there is no lot of changes in the words. And the next is run, running, run, run. Last is break, breaking, broke, and broken. So whether irregular or regular, these four forms of verbs are used to create the 12 verb tenses, which in English help us to order the chaos of time. So before ending my presentation, I would like to give you a quote or saying by Audre Lorde. Verbs are a means of ordering the chaos of time. And that would be all. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learn some or you learn more about my discussion, which is about the recognition of verbs.